Have you ever felt lonely for no reason at all? You're not abandoned, your phone has notifications, people even care about you, and still there's that ache, a hollow press in the chest, the kind that makes a room feel colder than it is. You start to wonder, what's wrong with me? Why can't I shake this? That's where we begin. Viktor Frankl would lean in here, not to tell you to just distract yourself, not to say think positive, but to ask a different question. What is this feeling trying to tell you about the meaning you're missing right now? He believed that many of our deepest pains are not signs of brokenness, they're signals. And loneliness, especially the kind that appears out of nowhere, is one of the clearest signals of a meaning gap. Picture loneliness like a lighthouse in the night. Loud, insistent, bright. It doesn't erase the storm, but it points to the shore. Frankl called this the existential vacuum, a space inside us that isn't empty by accident, empty on purpose, because it's waiting to be filled with something only you can bring. Not comfort, not entertainment, meaning. What does that mean in a life like yours? It means loneliness might not be saying, you have no one. It might be saying, you have no why, right now. And a human being cannot live, at least not peacefully, without a why. Frankl discovered, in conditions that would make most hearts go silent, that people could bear almost any how if they found a why. This isn't motivational wallpaper. This is a calm, steady truth. The ache you feel is not asking for more noise. It's asking for direction. So let's unpack it gently. Why does loneliness strike when you're surrounded by people? Because presence isn't the same as purpose. The room can be full, but if your life isn't speaking to anyone beyond your own comfort, if your day isn't tethered to a person, a task, or a stance that matters, your inner world notices. It sends a signal. Find meaning, not someday. Now, according to Frankl, meaning arrives through 3 doors. First, what you create, the work you choose, the task you take on, the small project you finish, even when no one else cares. Second, what you experience, the love you offer and receive, the beauty you let in, the sunrise you actually stop to watch instead of filming. Third, the attitude you take toward, the suffering you can't change, the story you write about your pain, and the dignity you give it by choosing your response. Let's bring that into your day. If the loneliness is saying, no why, then one of these doors is waiting for you to knock. And no, it doesn't require a grand destiny. Frankl never promised fame. He promised meaning. The difference. Fame looks at the crowd. Meaning looks at the one person in front of you, the one task within reach, the one decision you can make today. Imagine you wake up, and that familiar weight sits on your chest. Instead of asking, how do I get rid of this? Try asking, who needs me in the smallest, realist way today? That might be a person. It might be a task that serves a person. It might be the way you carry your own pain so that someone watching learns it's survivable. A nurse on the night shift who feels alone under fluorescent lights chooses to write a note to the next nurse, listing small wins from the night and one encouraging line for the patient in room 7. That isn't just kindness, that's meaning. A student in a new city who eats dinner alone decides to study one local story, the name of the old baker on the corner, what his hands have held, what his mornings smell like. Then the student makes a small portrait to give to him. That isn't busy work. That's meaning. A divorced father who spends quiet Sundays without his kids chooses to repair a neighbor's broken fence each week, plank by plank, until it holds again. That isn't avoidance. That's meaning. Meaning turns loneliness into a messenger. And messengers, once heard, calm down. But what about the days when you can't find someone to serve, or a task to finish? Frankl would offer a tool he called dereflection. It's a fancy word for a simple move. Shift the spotlight off your feelings and onto something or someone outside you, not to ignore your feelings, to stop staring at them so hard that they can't breathe. If your loneliness is like a tight knot, dereflection loosens it by asking, what outside me deserves my attention now? Try this in a small way. The next time you feel that ache, set a 15-minute appointment with meaning. Choose one of 3 appointments, a contribution appointment. Write a short message to someone specific, telling them a truth about how their life helped you. Be concrete. The point isn't your cleverness, it's contact. A craft appointment. Do a focused, tangible task that ends with a result you can hold or share. A paragraph, a drawing, a cleaned sink, a fixed hinge. The point isn't perfection, it's completion. An attitudinal appointment. Name a burden that won't change today, then write 1 sentence that describes the way you will carry it, as if someone smaller is watching you to learn courage. The point isn't to erase pain, it's to dignify it. 15 minutes. When the timer ends, check the ache. It might not vanish, but it usually changes temperature. Meaning adds warmth. Some of us meet the ache at night. The bed feels too wide. The ceiling looks endless. You reach for your phone, not because you want the screen, but because you want not to feel. Frankl would not shame you for that. He'd simply ask you to turn the thing that numbs you into a tool that connects you to the why. Before you open an app, write a single line at the top of your notes. Who or what is worth my next 15 minutes? Then decide, on purpose. Don't be perfect, be precise. You might be thinking, but isn't this just distraction with better branding? No, distraction says, forget. Meaning says, choose. Distraction steals time. Meaning spends it. One drains you, the other roots you. Loneliness feels pointless. Frankl gives it a point. He would say you aren't here to feel constantly good. You're here to answer life's questions with your actions. Life asks, what will you do with this hour, with this wound, with this small corner of the world that only you can touch? And loneliness is the question mark pressed against your ribs until you answer. Let's name one more truth that might surprise you. Often, when we hunt for friends to solve our loneliness, we unintentionally make it worse. Why? Because we approach people as medication. We want them to fix our feelings. But people are not pills, they are purposes. If you can approach someone not just to be filled, but to give, the dynamic shifts. You stop trying to consume connection. You start building it. Try this tiny experiment for a week. Choose one person, not a best friend, not a soulmate, just a human you encounter, a colleague, a barista, a neighbor. Give yourself the task of learning one true detail about their life that most miss. Not gossip, not trivia, something human. Ask permission to remember it. Then remember, next time you meet, reflect it back. How did your sister's appointment go? Did your son like his new shoes? That's not small talk. That's weight-bearing presence. Loneliness loosens when you become a keeper of details. Here's another angle Frankl would insist on. Some loneliness comes from unlived potential. The version of you that knows you could take responsibility for a specific task in the world but keeps saying, later. Every time you delay, a piece of you drifts away from the rest. No wonder you feel apart. Bring those pieces home by choosing one micro-purpose with a deadline. The rule is simple, small, specific, and for someone. Write the class summary by 6 p.m. for the WhatsApp group so they don't worry. Get the neighborhood bench sanded by Saturday so the elderly man can sit again. Record a 1-minute bedtime story for my niece tonight. You don't need applause. You need completion. Now let's talk about suffering, the kind you can't fix with action. Frankl called the way we handle this tragic optimism. Tragic, because pain is real. Optimism, because meaning is still possible. If your loneliness comes from a loss you can't replace, the work of the day isn't to find a crowd. It's to choose a stance toward the absence. You might decide, I will carry this love in the open, not like a secret. Or, I will make a sacred routine of lighting a candle for them at dinner and telling one story. Or, I will turn our song into a ritual of courage when I freeze. These aren't hacks, they are handholds. There's also the loneliness that appears in success. You get what you wanted. The applause fades. The room echoes. Frankl would say, when pleasure ends, meaning must begin again. So build your next why around service, not status. Ask, who could this experience help if I put it in their hands? If you just crossed a finish line, maybe your next meaning is to pace someone else's first mile. Mid-roll, pause, let me ask you something. What's one small, concrete action you could take this week that would give your loneliness a purpose? Drop it in the comments. Your idea may spark someone else's, and if this is steadying you, consider subscribing so you don't miss the next step we'll build together. There's a quiet technique that I wish we taught in schools. Make a vow that's bigger than your mood. A vow is not a grand, lifelong oath. It's a promise anchored to meaning that holds even when you don't feel like it. Every Wednesday at 7 a.m., I bring fresh fruit to the office kitchen. Every Friday night, I call the elder who lives alone down the street. On the first of each month, I write a letter to someone who shaped me. Mood changes, vows don't. Every vow you keep is a brick in a bridge out of isolation. You may be wondering, what if I'm the one who needs help? Frankl would remind you, needing help and offering meaning are not opposites. Some of the most powerful meaning flows from weakness honestly shared. If your loneliness is heavy today, you can make someone's path clearer by saying, I'm lonely, not as a complaint, but as a truth that invites closeness. Would you sit with me for 10 minutes? We sometimes wait for perfect strength before we dare to connect. Don't wait. Let your need be a gateway to mutual purpose. One more practice, gentle and practical. Create a meaning map for your week. Not a to-do list, a who and why list. Divide a page into 3 columns, labeled Create, Experience, and Attitude, the 3 doors. Under Create, write one small thing you'll make or fix for someone. Under Experience, write one interaction or beauty you'll fully attend. Tour, walk with no headphones. A museum visit, a dinner you cook with both hands and all your senses. Under Attitude, write one unchangeable hardship and the stance you will adopt. Pin the map where you can see it. Every checked box is an answered question from life. Now, what about weekends? The long open stretches that sometimes make loneliness raw. Frankl might call it a vacuum amplified by time. If emptiness expands on Saturday, plan one anchor early in the day you can't cancel a volunteer shift. A standing breakfast with someone older or younger than you. A class where your hands move. Loneliness hates movement toward meaning. Don't sprint, just walk steadily toward one thing. When the night returns, and it will, keep a small ritual ready. Something that says, I am not a passive passenger in this feeling. It could be as simple as a bedside notebook titled, People I'm Building For, and you add one name each night with one line about what you'll do for them tomorrow. Maybe you draw a symbol on a scrap of paper and tape it to your wall, a lighthouse, a bench, a tiny compass, not to be cute. To remember this ache points somewhere. If all this feels too simple for a complex life, let's be honest, the human heart is complex, but the way out of certain pains is surprisingly plain. Frankl didn't offer theory alone. He watched people choose purpose inside the darkest schedules imaginable. That's what makes his calm so convincing. We don't need perfect circumstances to find meaning. We need courage to answer the questions life asks us today. So, when loneliness appears, at the bus stop, in your kitchen, at 2 a.m., treat it like a knock at the door. Ask the 3 questions. What can I create right now, even small? What can I experience with full attention? And what attitude will I adopt toward what I cannot change? Then give yourself 15 minutes to begin. If you fail, begin again. If you forget, remember again. If you feel silly, let yourself smile and keep going. Meaning isn't an event, it's a practice. Let's close with a picture. Imagine your life as a lighthouse on a rocky point. The sea is harsh. Nights are long. Boats are out there, unseen, trusting you without knowing your name. Your job is simple, sacred, and not always praised. Keep the light. Some nights the fog will be thick, and your own heart will doubt that anyone sees you. Keep the light anyway. When the loneliness presses in, whisper the vow you chose. Light the candle, write the note, finish the small task, call the name. This is how you turn an ache into a signal, and a signal into a path. You are not broken for feeling lonely. You are called, and the call is not to chase a crowd. It's to choose a why. The moment you do, even if your room stays quiet, something shifts. The air warms, the compass steadies, and somewhere, someone finds their way because your light refused to go out.